this, we move on to our next leader from the education space, Dr. Sandeep Pachpande, Chairman, ASM Group of Institution. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep. Glad to have connected with you once again. It's always a pleasure to meet and hear you. We had an amazing opening ceremony with policymakers and leaders. Now we would like to hear it from you on the modernizing to a digital first institution. Over to you, Dr. Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sudhir, and thank you to APAC for having me here on such an important topic on modernization to a digital first institution. This is a very apt theme nowadays. And, if you look at the pandemic, it has disrupted not only businesses, but lives of the entire world. Over 350 crore students during lockdown had to be taught online. I believe that the role of education is to prepare students not only for the jobs of the future, but for the careers of the future. And however, while we are preparing them for that, we were still using traditional methods and tools. In the future, creativity, innovation, problem solving, critical thinking are going to be the skills which are going to be required. And we as educationists have to ensure that we are teaching this to the younger generation. I am an optimist and always believe that every crisis provides us with an opportunity. And I think that this pandemic has given us that much required opportunity to rethink, reboot, redesign, and also reimagine our entire education system. With this so-called coronization of education, it is essential that we look at holistic education and the entire spectrum of education in totality and not in isolation. We need to reimagine the online education and strengthen the industry institute as well as the institute ties as such. We require a new paradigm shift in our teaching methodology, assessments, and regulations, where all stakeholders will collaborate, work together, and embrace technology while adhering to our traditional Indian values. The time has come to teach in India and learn in India now. As I know, we say that, and I believe that education is the key and the only tool which can help reskill, upskill, and new skill the entire nation to be ready to face the challenges such as this particular pandemic. The future of the human race largely depends on the high quality education and health. And education is the spirit of the mind, whereas the health provides the accelerator to the body as such. So the future, as even the earlier speaker, Dr. Sandeep had said, is digitally empowered, AI and ML, machine learning enabled, virtual blended practical education is the way forward. Now, when we talk of digital education, I remember that I've been giving keynotes at quite a few forums around 4 to 5 years back, where I was talking on the same topic of digitization. And even then, I had said that time has come where education needs to be disrupted. And in this time, what is going to happen is that either you go digital or you perish. This is what I used to talk even 4 years and 5 years back. But with the pandemic, I think it has given a big boost and drive to the digital education, because we did not have a choice and everyone were forced to adapt and move and use technology in order to continue the teaching learning process as such. I had the privilege of meeting the new Dean of Harvard for a session for the alumni, what he did a few months back. And Nitin Datar there talked about his next 5-year plan vision for Harvard. And it had digitization and in getting inclusiveness as the two top priorities as such. So even the topmost business school in the world is looking at giving and using digitization. However, when we talk of the education sector, we have always seen that there is a big resistance to change. Even at Harvard, we understand from our faculties that if they would have been told to go completely digital, they wouldn't have agreed for it. And even Nitin Noria, earlier dean, said in one of the address that he's learned not to make statements like online education at Harvard Business School, not in my lifetime. And then he says, no, I regret making statements like that now. So I think time has come where all of us in the education sector have to embrace technology, and we have to look at new ways of doing things. I've been given two questions in this session to answer, and one of them was, what are your future plans when it comes to blended online learning into your campus? I think nowadays, and even in the future, even after, whenever the pandemic gets over, if it gets over, we have to live with the new normal. I think technology will continue to play a very important role. And how I see things moving forward is in a very hybrid and blended way of learning. We have been using blended learning at ASM from over 5 years through a partnership with Harvard Business School Online, HBP, IIMs, and other Coursera and other people as such, where we used to have the asynchronous teaching done through these platforms and the synchronous teaching done face-to-face by our faculty members, or even on an online mode now in a blended mode. So there is a mix of synchronous and asynchronous, and these gives a lot of benefits. In fact, when we started off first with HBS Online, we realized that the students are more attentive in those classrooms. They find it very much engaging because it is active, it is social, and it is case-based. So, and it is available on demand. So though it's asynchronous and on demand, it gives you all those options to even collaborate and work together as such. So the education forward and what we have adapted at ASM is a blended mode. We did also have some experiments with a hybrid mode, wherein we were taking some lectures online. Some students were coming online, and some students are sitting in the classroom as such. So it's a mix of students online and physically into the classroom. So this also we found was working pretty well as such. The new age, I think, is going to be a mix of these systems. Bite-sized learning is going to be a very important part, giving students the experiential learning and personalized education, I think, is the key. We have also, have our assessments which have gone online fully, and we are also using tools such as even Alexa, which we are using as teaching assistants. In fact, I have a 14-year-old son who presented a paper at IIM Bangalore on how to use voice assistants Alexa, and we have been using it at ASM, and we have seen that it's working very well as such. However, when I talk of online, I think so the physical mode in the future would be required, because if you look at what education, the role of education is, knowledge dissemination, skills, and aptitude. The first two, I think you can get through online. But when you talk of something like aptitude, it has to be done in a physical world where you meet people, you learn with each other's skills as such. The second question that was asked to me is, what is your institution doing to close the gap, skills gap, and meet the industry and the requirements of future skills? See, the jobs of the future are going to be very different than what they are today. Even the World Economic Forum says that creativity, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, these are the 21st century skills which are more important while to make a student employable as such. And if we have to build these skills in the students, we cannot do it with a traditional method, because our traditional teaching of education, in fact, somehow actually kills it, or I would say does not encourage these skills to be developed. So we have to reimagine the way we are doing things. At ASM, we started some exercises where we did reverse competency mapping and skill mapping, of what are the jobs available in the market, and we accordingly made our curriculum to meet those requirements. And we did this by partnering with the industries as well as the top education institutions. We have a methodology called as EDGE, Excellence Driven Guaranteed Employability Program, wherein we provide students learnings from top universities in the world like Harvard and IIMs, coming through these online programs. Plus, we are giving them the in-demand industry certifications through our partnerships with IBM, AWS, Microsoft, and even we're using Coursera, edX, and all these kind of platforms for imparting those skills. And with these partnerships, what we found is that we can then reduce that gap between the industry and the institute, as well as create employable students. So the industry really doesn't have to really go and spend time on reskilling the student when they goes to the industry. I think partnering is the way forward, and that's how we have been doing things at ASM. Having said that, however, is that the challenge is not preparing them for the gap which exists today, but preparing them for the future. So that is going to be the biggest challenge for the education institutions, because to be very frank, none of us even know how that future looks like. For example, we talk of HR managers today. In the future, we are going to require bot managers who would be requiring to manage the bots in the company. And humans and the robots will have to work together in companies now in the future. So these are very exciting times, and I think digitization is something what is the answer to all these questions. Sudhir, I think, yes, I've just reached my time limit there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep. Thanks for bringing us a new for coining a new word, coronization of education. We have been talking that education in the new world order, and what you came up with this new terminology. And as you said, we are glad that you had that vision 4 or 5 years back: go digital or perish. This is what actually is happening, and the coronization has pushed the education sector, besides all other sector, to adapt digitalization, are accepting these as well. So I'm glad that your son Aditya Panchpande has presented on the voice assistance in a reputed organization like IIM. We are glad, and students in your institution are benefiting your far vision, far-sighted approach towards the digitization of education, which will make them future ready, actually. So thank you very much for delivering this talk. We would like to present to you appreciation certificate from or on our behalf, uh, uh, presented to Dr. Sandeep Pachpande, Chairman ASM Group of Institution, for his dedicated efforts and exemplary work in the education sector. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, Sudhir. Thank you very much for the recognition, and look forward to many more programs with you.